So members of the intelligence community pull from facts of the matter through the intelligence cycle to create the intelligence product, which is then delivered to policymakers. Policymakers use this information themselves in order to make decisions. D-E-C-I-S-I-O-N-S. Policymakers pull from the intel in order to make decisions. These decisions themselves reference the facts of the matter. It's not dogmatic. It is a closed cycle loop, but it is not dogmatic. So that the intelligence community is going to pull from facts of the matter, world affairs, different types of, different methodologies of gathering information, and God knows there's tons of them. I did a lecture series on all of them already. Gather that information of the world, sort of taking the temperature of global affairs, and create a product. That product is going to be given to policymakers for the purpose of making a decision, and these decisions then affect facts of the matter. It's not going to just reinforce the facts of the matter. There would be no need in that. The decision is to change the facts of the matter. When the coach realizes that his key player could be sick, he quarantines the key player, he makes the decision, and that changes the facts of the matter. It means that he is no longer going to get the flu, and he's going to be able to perform. Were the coach not to make that decision, the facts might have been that his key player got the flu. But guess what? The key player didn't get the flu. So what we see immediately is that the decision becomes a nodal point, right? And technically speaking, in other forms, I'm not going to get into this now because it's much too complex, it's a decisional node. Here. I can do A or B. The world will forever be changed if we decide to do A or if we decide to do B. We are not going to be able to do both things. For the sake of example, there might be some instances where you can. There's a mutual exclusion between A and B. Either we do A or we do B, but we cannot do A and B. I need all of the information up until this point. Policymakers need all of the information up until this point in order to decide whether we do A or B. If we do A, then the facts change. In accordance with A. If we do B, then the facts change in accordance with B. This is just one sovereign nation doing this. Every sovereign nation is consistently doing this. I would pay. This is the type of stuff that I really love. All right, I would love for a visual artist to just theoretically demonstrate how insane this must be. Think of a pool of, and this might be way too out there, but think of a pool visually, right? Think of a pool of like letters, right? And let's just say that each sovereign nation, just for the sake of simplicity, can make two decisions. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, blah, 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 all the way to Z, right? Whatever. So then, and we know there's more than 12 nations, but it doesn't really matter, or what have you. We put the decisions out, everybody makes a decision, and choose. Okay, we choose A and not B. We choose C and not D. We choose F and not E. Those are the decisions, and that's what the world is at that point in time. That's the snapshot of the world. But I don't really know what everyone else is going to decide. They might choose A or they might choose B, so I have to make my decisions based on not just the information and the facts of the matter. We'll go another level deeper later in the series. I have to also make decisions based on the facts and inferences, and we'll talk about the complexity of trying to make decisions based on inference, which is why critical thinking is so absolutely important in terms of intelligence community. But I just wanted to go through. This is very. I mean, this is playtime. This is just getting warm. This is super important. I'm gonna build a monster on this. But the idea is we're just don't think that this is anything significant just yet. We're just playing. We're just playing. we'll get deeper in a little bit. That in itself, though, is a good idea of what's at stake there, right? I like the visual. I like the idea of trying to understand the process function of the system, because the deeper we, and this is not just an American system. This is the system for decision making, to my knowledge, in terms of any intelligence community anywhere in the world, right? I happen to live in the U.S., so you know, my interpretation and my analysis is going to be based on U.S. intel, but I'm not presenting this as an American intelligence lecture. I'm presenting this as intelligence, period, irrespective of nationality, right? Alright, so intelligence may mean 4 different things, right? There may be 4 things that we're going to discuss. So 4 meanings of intel. Four meanings of intelligence. Note, the various meanings are not mutually exclusive. It's not either or. You can be some and not others. It can be all. It can be one and not others. 1. The information intelligence product. The meaning of intelligence, the significance of intelligence, is the product, is the final intelligence report. Right? So that the intelligence report takes precedence. That's one way of looking at it. Right? The intelligence report takes precedence. There is a sense in which, in order to have a better understanding of world affairs, so those who are in positions to decide can decide, they need to be briefed on world affairs. That briefing of world affairs comes at an enormous amount of compiled data. And that's the stuff that I love, right? You're talking about distilling maybe hundreds of thousands of words down to, 3 or 4 pages. Distilling tremendous global interrelation into 3 or 4 pages, right? The report is a consolidated, you take the report, right? You say, here's what we're going to deliver to the community, but the deliverable, the intelligence product itself, is the most condensed version of current global affairs. That's one way of looking at it. In terms of intelligence, however, you might not want to emphasize the product as sort of the significance, the meaning of intelligence. You might want to say that, no, intelligence more is what we in philosophy call a process philosophy. It's more about the process of intelligence, right? We don't want to look at intelligence and emphasize the end of intelligence. We want to look at intelligence as a gradient, as a process, so that there is an interrelation from the beginning to the end, and all things in between are interrelated. There are aspects of the beginning in the end and aspects of the end in the beginning and such, so that you might want to emphasize the process. To be honest with you, that's my bias. I am more of a process philosophy type person. I like to understand systemically the interrelation of any part to all parts in a Leibnizian sense. For those of you that get that Leibniz joke, shout out to you. I like to understand the interrelation of any part to all parts, which requires itemization of the entire system, which is why my lecture series are so tedious. I don't want to say tediously boring, but they're so tedious because I'm trying to identify seminal concepts at each point. But that doesn't undermine the final product, right? All of that is for the final product, right? This is the culmination of the intelligence community's work, is the deliverable to the president, to the Security Council, to whomever is asking for the intelligence product. For them, the decision makers, it's the beginning of their process, which I'm not going to discuss, right? Their process begins with, in part, begins with getting the end of the intelligence community's process, which is the deliverable. Next is the mission. I'm going to try and keep the mission in mind, because, and I do discuss this later in the lecture series, and I know that I'm going to address this specifically, but the reason I don't myself have a natural inclination towards the mission, quote unquote, because it requires it's like a bureaucratization of information. It has to be by default. Policy is itself